Welcome to the Rum Revival. My name is Arminder, and today I'm trying these two brand new rums for the very first time in front of you and giving you my gut reaction to them. Now, this is a thing that I do all of the time on my Patreon page. I call it First Impressions. Anytime I get a new bottle or sample, the first thing I do is turn on the camera there, crack open the bottle, talk a little bit about the rum, but really it's about sharing my initial tasting notes and what I feel about the rum in that moment. Basically like a vibe check. Now, for me, it's a great way of putting out timely content for new releases, and maybe it might help you decide if that rum is something you might want to try or buy yourself. So if that's something you might be interested in, then check out my Patreon. In fact, last week I did first impressions videos on these two new Raising Glasses releases, the Kyrie and the Paley's Fury. These rums were kind of wild, and you can watch my reaction to them on Patreon. Now, moving on to these bottles here. So these are the newest releases from Down Island Spirits, an independent bottler out of Florida. Now, they've been around since 2021 and have released single cask releases from Jamaica, Barbados, Brazil, and Martinique. And now they've released these two rums right here. And what's exciting about these two are they're from countries that we don't get a whole lot of rum from. We've got one rum from Ghana and one from Paraguay. Now, the rum from Ghana is a cane juice rum that was pot distilled in 2020 in the town of Mim in western Ghana. Now, given that, it's probably made at the Mim distillery, which is located on an estate which actually grows and processes cashews. Now, my understanding is that they typically make a cashew brandy on the estate, but I guess they've also gotten into the rum space. After distillation, the unaged distillate is shipped to the Netherlands, where it's aged for over 3 years in an ex-bourbon cask, and then it's bottled in Florida at 62% ABV. So the Paraguay release is a molasses-based column distilled rum. It was distilled in 2016 at Otissa Distillery in the town of Arroyos y Oteros in Paraguay. Now, Otissa is a small sugar mill that not only processes local sugarcane into sugar and molasses, but it also produces its own rum. So after distillation, it's aged 6 years on site in an ex-bourbon cask, and then it's aged another 2 years in the Netherlands for a total of 8 years. And then it's bottled at 62% ABV in Florida. Now, for both of these releases, there's no additives or chill filtration. Okay, so enough talking about these rums. Let's give them a taste. Let's actually start off with the Paraguay. First reaction to this is that at 62% ABV, it's not hot. I'm not getting like alcohol fumes. Maybe I get a little bit of dried fruits. Woo, okay, I got a little bit of fumes right there. Honestly, primarily, this is a bunch of dried fruits. We got dried figs, maybe a little bit of dried apricots, some raisins, maybe even like dried prunes. I'm not really getting big, bold oak notes like your caramels or your vanillas. Not a whole lot of that. Though, having just said that now, maybe it's the fact that I said it and it was kind of top of mind, but I am picking up a little touch of maybe vanilla and a little bit of oak. Just kind of the faintest little bit, but I might have just tricked myself into that. First impressions, what do you want? All right, let's give this a sip. All right. I mean, it's the first rum of the day, and this is 62% ABV, so it does really kind of make itself known on the palate. My eyes watered a little bit. Yeah, I will say I am getting a lot of wood, a lot of oak on this. For what I think I said, this was aged 8 years. For now, at least the first thing that kind of really I'm able to like lock onto is a lot of wood, a lot of oak. On the back end, I'm getting a decent amount of tannins, a little bit of texture. It starts off fairly gentle and light up front. Midway through, that's when all the barrel notes really kind of push through, and there's a little bit of texture coming in on the back end as well. Even though it's high in ABV, I'm not getting like a big, bold, lingering finish. Maybe there's like a faint touch of dried fruit coming through on the palate as well. This isn't a rum where the flavor profile is going to be one that I kind of fixate on and remember maybe in the next day or two. Oftentimes, sometimes when I'll have a rum for the first time, you know, it'll have this big, bold kind of left of field kind of flavor profile, and it's one of those ones that I'll constantly be thinking about, kind of thinking and turning it over in my head until I have it again for a second time or a third time. And this seems straightforward, and I appreciate kind of, you know, how clean it is and well put together. Not something that I am going to immediately reach for if there are a couple things on the shelf that I can pick from, but I do think it's well constructed. But again, these are only first impressions. They probably will change. All right, let's move on to the Ghana. Ooh. Ooh, all right. Now, obviously, this is a lot lighter than the Paraguay rum, which makes sense. It's only aged about 3 years as opposed to the 8, and all 3 of those years were in Netherlands. Whoa, okay. There is something going on in the nose. Kind of think of like banana, but not like a Jamaican banana, like the Jamaican funk banana note. What is that? Maybe like a banana candy? Yeah, maybe like a hard banana candy. Are those even a thing? Yeah, maybe like green banana, right? Underripe banana, but in a candy form. Now that I've let it open up a little bit, that green banana is now kind of transforming into a little bit of just like cane, sugar cane. Kind of like a slightly dried cane stalk. That's nice. I mean, there's a lot there to really kind of spend some time with to really parse, but that's for another video. All right, let's give it a sip. Oh yeah, that's big, that's impactful, a lot of flavor. The notes I was getting on the aroma, kind of getting those on the palate. That is a lovely mix of underripe banana and a little bit of cane sweetness, sugar cane sweetness kind of coming together. Oily body, maybe not like medium, but a little shy of medium in terms of its presence and oiliness on the body, and it's quite nice. It is relatively dry on the finish. I feel like it's not got a lot of like residual sweetness as you kind of let it kind of linger. What I'm really excited about here is that this is a rum from Ghana, again, a country that I've never had a rum from. So one, super happy about that. Then it actually ended up being really, really good. Even better, even more stoked about that. So at 62% ABV, super drinkable. Doesn't taste hot, lovely flavor, doesn't really overwhelm your palate. So on board already. I don't feel like the need to water it down, but you know, obviously you can do that. All right, so those were my first impressions on these two rums. And the thing is, my opinion on them might change, right? Either somewhat or a lot. Now, personally, I feel like to truly get a good understanding of a rum and how you really feel about it, you have to try it a number of times, and ideally in different circumstances. In different times of the day, as the first rum of the day, as the last rum of the day, times when you're sitting there really paying attention to it, and other times where you're barely paying any attention to it because you're distracted by something else. And I think it's by trying it in all those circumstances that I think you'll get a fuller sense and perspective on the rum. And one of the observations that I know I've made is that for me personally, on first tastings, I tend to underappreciate molasses-based calm distilled rums like this one here from Paraguay. And that is really because, you know, they tend to be less flashier and a bit more subtle than the rums that you might try that are either, you know, cane juice rums or bigger, heavier pot still rums like the Ghana here. And those ones I tend to overappreciate during first tastings because they kind of just hit you over the head with so much flavor, right? And there's so much to kind of just lock onto. So given all that, I think what I'm gonna do is continue to drink both of these over the next month and then post a video on my Patreon where I share an update and tell you how I feel about them then. I'll try them in all sorts of different circumstances and we'll see how my opinion changes. Now, the one thing I know that will change for sure are the tasting notes. You know, these kind of initial tasting notes that I shared are kind of surface level, right? I don't have enough time to really kind of sit through and think about and parse, you know, what I'm smelling or tasting. But over multiple sessions and being able to write notes, I will absolutely be able to do that, and we'll see how radically different those tasting notes are. So if you'd like to see if and how my opinion on these two rums has changed, then consider subscribing to my Patreon, and in a couple of weeks I'll post an update. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you next time. Cheers.